You're listening to Seattle Real Estate Podcast.
We've got more trouble in paradise here in the state of Washington. Homeless activists occupy Washington State Hotel in apparent takeover attempt. At least 7 are in custody. This is the report. Fox News. It's what we're talking about today. If you're new here, thanks for being here. My name is Sean Reynolds. I am a owner of a couple of real estate companies, and I read the news that you want to hear. Let's jump on into it. Thanks for being here. All right. A group of hotel employees were safely removed from the building. Get those people out. We've got activists taking over. We don't know what the deal is. This is not good. Do you remember that we had a story and I covered it a bunch. And some people got upset with me saying, oh, you're giving too much power to them, to the activists, to the peaceful protesters. Like, no, just covering a news story. And what happened there is that, KOMO Housing Now paid for one night, moved in like 30 homeless people, didn't end up paying for any more nights, got in a big tussle, police had to come, square everybody away. But the owner of that hotel, that motel, he was basically just out thousands of dollars. And everybody said, yeah, you're pretty much going to have to sue the city of Fife, I think it was. It was Fife, which is outside of Tacoma, outside of Olympia. So here's this story, and this is very similar. It's very similar. At least 7 people were in custody late Sunday after homeless activists, some reportedly armed with hatchets and knives, forcibly occupied the lobby in 17 rooms at the Red Lion Hotel in Olympia, Washington, according to officials. The activists were a group calling itself Olympia Housing Now, or Oly Housing Now. They occupied the hotel in an apparent takeover attempt to demand pandemic housing, reports said. City officials in a release said the Olympia Police Department received reports that employees felt under threat from the group, and at least one employee was allegedly assaulted. This kind of stuff is just going on left and right, isn't it? It's crazy. What are we going to see next? I mean, just full-on takeovers of big corporate buildings? I don't know. But in this instance, I was glad to read this story and go, okay, law enforcement, they were there pretty quick on this one. The other one, it took days for them to figure out what was going on. That poor business owner who owned the place in Fife, the Travel Lodge, it was a travel lodge in Fife. That guy just got screwed. Lots of money and nobody's willing to pay. And the city's like, yeah, you pretty much got to sue us. That's what we're doing. Law enforcement and SWAT teams closed off the nearby roadway and are going through the hotel floor by floor, the Olympian reported. A group of hotel employees who fled into the basement after activists entered the hotel were safely removed from the building, authorities said. Shauna Sowersby, a reporter, tweeted that a loud bang was heard inside the hotel just before 11 p.m. local time. She said flashbangs also went off as officers attempted to clear the building. Could you imagine being in this hotel? What is going on? You peek your head out the door, you look down that long hallway, and there's flashbangs going off, and you're like, that's the lobby. What is going on in the lobby? Smoke, maybe a little tear gas. Probably not going to stay at the Olympia. What is it? What hotel is it that we're dealing with here? Red Lion Hotel. I used to stay in the Red Lion all the time as a kid. It was cool. It was just cool. That Red Lion thing. And, they always had a good restaurant, some good food. But this is like 40 something years ago. Red Lion. Now they've got activists storming it. Crazy. So here's the sequence of tweets from Shauna Sowersby. Multiple flashbangs just went off inside the hotel. And then stretcher now being brought in the hotel. Minutes ago, officers deployed flashbangs inside. Just this crazy, out of control. It's like, since when do homeless activists basically take over hotels? That is a new thing. This is happening. And here's from Jason Rantz on KTTH Radio. Talk about him a lot because he covers a lot of these stories. Olympia Police Department not messing around tonight. Several arrests so far as they clear the occupied hotel. Businesses were told to close early. Close early so we can square away these protesters, these activists who've basically just hijacked a hotel. A crowd across the street from the hotel was later seen chanting and harassing local law enforcement, according to videos on social media. And if you want to see this story on Fox, you can watch a number of these little individual videos, and they're super helpful because they kind of give you an idea of, all right, this is really what's going on. So here's another one from Jason Rantz, a little video that he tweeted out. They are now chanting to Olympia cops to choke and die. That's the kind of stuff that the activists often chant and or yell out or whatever it is that they are doing. But to the police officers, choke and die. That is the message that these activists are sending is we want homeless people to have housing during the pandemic. We are willing to commit illegal acts to do so, and we do not want the police around anymore. Kind of tells you what direction this has gone and tells you who's doing this, right? I mean, it's pretty clear. Another tweet from Jason Rantz. The agitators keep pushing the Olympia cops. They're actively trying to agitate a conflict so they can pretend the police started it. That is exactly what they do. And then a major media picks up on it and they say, oh, the peaceful protesters, that they were just hammered on by the cops. Yeah, but what did they do to start it? What did they do to start it? The cops didn't start this. The cops are there just basically to clear things out, get things going, so normal citizens can occupy the Red Lion in Olympia. The group on Saturday night purchased one night at the hotel and moved 33 homeless people in, reports said. By midday on Sunday, at least 35 members of the group had gathered in the lobby and outside the hotel. Olympia Police Department later estimated about 45 members of the group inside and outside of the hotel. That's a big group. And this is not a group that is necessarily good for business. Do you know what I mean? I mean, if you're a normal family going to check in and you see this crew, you got a bunch of homeless people and you've got the Olympia Housing Now people there who are black bloc. I mean, let's just be honest. That's not a place that you want your kids hanging out at, right? You got protesters outside chanting choke and die to the police. This is not a scene that you want your family to be involved in. This is not a scene that you want to be involved in. You will, if you had a reservation there, you would go, all right, let me get on hotel.com and see what I can come up with. Let me hit my Expedia app, and I'm going to have to say I am not taking that reservation in the Red Lion Inn in Olympia. I'm going to need to pass and go elsewhere. All right, this is another tweet from a Rebecca Parson. Breaking at Olympia Housing Now takes motel for emergency pandemic housing. Group calls on Thurston County to pay for the rooms with FEMA funding that covers non-congregate shelter at 100%. Okay, but you can't just force an entity like FEMA into funding. You can't force the city to fund it. And we found that out on that last deal in the Travel Lodge in Fife. The owner of that hotel, his only legal way to get compensated was to go to court. And you've got to have a bunch of money for attorneys to get that bad boy going, get that lawsuit going. And guess what? That guy, after having to deal with all that stuff, it's probably the last thing that business owner wants to do. He probably just wants to put that behind him. And he's like, all right, if I got out of this thing alive in one piece, nobody got injured, nobody got hurt, he's probably just going to move on. And I haven't seen any more storylines on that, whether he got any funding at all. But the last story I did see, and I meant to bring it up, was that, he's basically told, you got to go to court, get your money. Well, you can always say that. Well, you just need to go to court. I mean, it's not like you just show up in court and somebody hands you a check. You have to hire attorneys. You have to lodge the lawsuit. It's an incredible amount of money. And depending on how much money it is that's at stake, is it worth it? I mean, you might think, all right, you can get a $50,000 judgment. That's great and all. But if you spend $75,000 in attorney's fees getting there, does that make any sense? No, because most small business owners, they know that you're not going to win in court. It's a roll of the dice. You don't know how that's going to end up. So unless you're going to get a big judgment out of it, and even then, it's up to however that judge typically feels that day to say yay or nay. Yep, your life gets better, or nope, your life just stays the same and in same situation. Those people are going to owe you a bunch of money, and guess what? You're not going to get any of that money back. And that's kind of how I see it. And so these activist groups saying, yeah, you can have FEMA pay. It's like, well, you could say that you can have anybody pay. You know what? You could have the dentist down the street pay. He could pay. He could pay for all these hotel rooms that aren't being paid for by the group that signed the contract saying they would pay. You could say the mayor of Olympia could pay. I mean, pick anybody. That's not how this works. That's not reality. And so FEMA, the group wants the county to apply for funding that's being offered by the Federal Emergency Management Act to pay for non-congregate shelter, according to the paper. Well, that's not how this goes. That's not how this is done. Specifically, homeless people who are over 65 or have pre-existing health conditions, putting them at increased risk during the pandemic. All right, but causing a situation where you have the police come out? I mean, is that really the message you want to be sending? And are you really going to get your message, heard and acted upon if you do this? No, you're not. Simple as that, right? Around 11 a.m., officials said people inside the Red Lion called 911, this is, I think, Sunday morning, to report that a group was attempting to forcibly take over the hotel. 911, please come rescue this hotel in Olympia. Employees reported that some members of the activist group inside the hotel were armed with items such as hatchets, batons, knives, and had gas masks, helmets, and goggles, apparently in preparation for a confrontation. According to the release, the city's crisis unit is on the scene and will be connecting unhoused people to services, officials said. The occupants will not be allowed to remain at the hotel. Here's the really interesting thing I found from the last time when we talked about the Travelodge in Fife was out of the, I think there were, I can't remember, was it 30 or 40 homeless people? Out of the 30 or 40 homeless people that had been moved into the hotel and the KOMO Housing Now didn't pay, after that was all said and done, do you know how many of the homeless people took up the offer to be moved into a shelter? They were all offered shelter housing, right? You know how many people out of that? Either somewhere between 30 and 40. I think it was like 3 or maybe 4 of them took up the offer. Yeah, I'll go and instead of camping outside, I'll go into, shared housing of sorts. So basically homeless shelter. Nobody wants to do that. They want to just keep doing their thing. That's the bottom line, right? They basically talk about, I don't really want to deal with the rules. I don't want to deal with the rules in a homeless shelter. Well, you got to have rules. And, if you're working outside of those rules, you want to still keep doing the drugs, housing shelter isn't for you. You can't stay there. And they know that. And that's why I think so few of them take advantage of it, because they just want to keep doing their lifestyle, whatever that may be. Making sure our unhoused residents have access to safe and affordable housing has been Olympia's priority for more than a decade, said Mayor Cheryl Selby. Olympia has led on responding to homelessness, on coordinating shelter and other basic needs. The tactics used today by Olympia Housing Now are unproductive and won't make the mission more attainable. The Olympia Police Department anticipates there will be more arrests associated with the occupation, report said. So what I took from this is the Olympia was on board with, no, this isn't acceptable. Let's get these people out. So the mayor basically said, yeah, that's a no-go. It's not going to help. I'll read that again. It won't make the mission more attainable. It just doesn't. It just messes things up, because now you've got a hotel that's just rocked and all the people that were in it staying in it. And then now Red Lion is like, people don't want to stay in our hotel. And, it's going to have an impact. So does this get the message across? Not in a positive light. I mean, we all know that homelessness is an issue. And, it's an issue in Olympia as well. We've got some of the same issues here in Seattle and all these other major cities that are dealing with this kind of crisis. It's ongoing. It's not going to go away. But, these crazy stories of basically just taking over a hotel, I was glad to see that Olympia handled it quickly, and they brought the police in and basically said, yep, this is a no-go. We are going to arrest you. Now, what we need to figure out is anything really going to happen to these housing activists? Probably not. I don't know. My Olympia game, Olympia is our state capital. I don't follow a ton of news out of Olympia, but it's kind of like a lot of these other cities. But it's, halfway down the coast towards Oregon, and it's pretty far away from Seattle. So it's kind of doing its own thing. I am not sure, will their prosecutor, will they go after these people? Will they put them in jail? Probably not, because most of these are just like some kind of trespassing charge, and there are maybe a gross misdemeanor or something, or just a misdemeanor or something along that lines. But it sure impacts these hotels and people staying there and businesses supporting these hotels and businesses in the area, because people are like, oh, yeah, you guys had those activists take over the hotel. Ooh, not good. Don't really want to be involved with that. The rest of us are like, yeah, that's a no-go. We understand there is a homelessness issue and it needs to be handled. This is not the way to handle it. But this is how it's being handled. Yeah, let's just go hijack a hotel. We'll see how it goes. They bring their weapons. They bring their stuff to protect them. They got the goggles, got the gas mask. You got, helmet, typically bike helmet, whatever it takes to, you get whacked on the noggin with the police baton. Yeah, you'll live. So that is literally what's going on in Olympia. And crazy stuff. It's like, in what world do we live in where this goes on? Apparently here in Olympia, Washington, that's what we're doing. I expect to see more and more of this as this message is kind of tried to be brought forth to the public. This isn't the way to do it, but I've already said that. So we all kind of know what the deal is. It's a bunch of activists, and activist is a nice word, right? I mean, that's throwing them a bone where there probably shouldn't be a bone thrown, because this doesn't really help anything. I don't see how this helps anything at all. Oh, just have FEMA pay for it. That's not how this goes. That's just not. We all know that. But as this news story continues, I will keep reporting it to you right here on the Seattle Real Estate Podcast. Thanks so much for being here today. I'd love to have you subscribe if you see fit. If not, it's all right. Do your thing. I'm out of here. We'll catch up soon. Thanks again for being here. Bye. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you'll know when our next video is out.